Welcome back. We have reached Book 3, Unit 1. Religions of Middle East Origin is the name of the book. Unit 1 is Zoroastrianism. From the book BPY 004, Religions of the World, Religions of Middle East Origin, Book 3. Unit 1, Zoroastrianism. I'm sorry. Objectives. Zoroastrianism is both a philosophy and a religion. Hence, we give an overview of the religious aspects of Zoroastrianism. We speak of the prominent deities, the significance of the sacred fire, the priesthood, forms of worship, and major religious ceremonies. By the end of this unit, you should be able to understand the politico-religious context in which Zoroastrianism developed, declined, and later re-emerged. The major languages and texts of Zoroastrian thought, the Zoroastrian notion of God, world and man, as well as man's ultimate end. The religious aspect of Zoroastrianism, such as the Zoroastrian pantheon, the significance of the sacred fire, the priesthood, literary and religious ceremonies. Introduction 1.1. Zoroastrianism is the religion and philosophy of the ancient Iranians based on the teachings of the prophet Zoroaster, after whom the religion is named. It originated in what is now northeast Iran and later spread throughout Iran and beyond, influencing the development of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The term Zoroastrianism is synonymous with Mazdaism, that is, the worship of Ahura Mazda, exalted by Zoroaster as the supreme divine authority. Who? Ahura Mazda. The Zoroastrian name of the religion is Mazdaisna, which combines Mazda with the Avestan word Yasna, meaning worship, devotion. In the English language, an adherent of faith commonly refers to him or herself as a Zoroastrian, or less commonly a Zarathustrian. An older but still widespread expression is Behdin, meaning follower of Dana, for which good religion is one translation. Life of Zoroaster. Next is 1.2, Origin and Development of Zoroastrianism. So we have to study life of Zoroaster. The exact date of the birth of Zoroaster is under dispute. There are 6 philosophers who bore at different times the name of Zoroaster. One is described as a Chaldean or a Syrian, another as a Bactrian, a third as a Pamphylian, a fourth as Armenian, a fifth as Median, a sixth as Persian. Of these, the one generally accepted as founder of Zoroastrianism is one born at Ray in Media and flourished in Bactria. These are all the names of the places. According to the Iranian tradition, he lived 250 years before Alexander, which is understood as Alexander's conquest of Iran in 330 before Christ. He is believed to have had his first vision at the age of 30 and began preaching at 40 and converted his king Gustasp 2 years later. Tradition holds that he lived 77 years, and hence scholars believe he must have lived between 630 to 553, 628 to 551, or 618 to 541 BC. However, Dr. Hogg is of the opinion that he lived not later than 1000 BC. Mr. Kharshedji Rastamaji Kama, a well-known Oriental scholar among the Parsis, holds that Zoroaster lived at least 1300 years before Christ. Various meanings have been suggested for the name Zoroaster. Dr. Hogg suggested that the term Zoroaster means old camel keeper, composed of 2 words, Zarath and Zarad, meaning old, Astra, meaning camel. Zoroaster was a family member. Zoroaster was a member of the family of Spitama, a descendant of Feruddin, king of Persia of the Pesadian dynasty. From the Dinkard and Bandehesh, two well-known books in Pahlavi, it appears that Zoroaster was the great grandson of one of Haychatspa, the fifth in descendant from Spitama. In the Avesta, this is spoken of as Spitama Zarathustra, Zoroaster of the family of Spitama. Even if you are getting confused, it's alright. Just keep listening to it. The 9th chapter of Yasna, and because I'm also getting confused, but that's alright. I mean, not confused, but it's a lot more information to digest. But let's continue. So the 9th chapter of Yasna and the Iban Yast speak of one Purushashpa, noted for righteous life and piety, was selected by God to be the father of the prophet. In Pahlavi works, it is said that an angel presented him with a glass of wine. Soon after drinking, his wife Dogdo conceived and bore a son who was destined to usher in new era in Eastern history. According to Vendidad, chapter 14:4, the town of Ray, chapter 19:4, the town of Ray, the birthplace of Zoroaster, was situated on the banks of a river named Darzi. Pahlavi books note that the governor of province resolved, at the instigation of wicked counselors, to destroy the infant, but was prevented by the divine agency. Avesta narrates that a youth, Zoroaster, passed this time in deep study of philosophical questions and in divine meditation on the top of a mountain named Ashidarena. His teaching is based on the divine inspiration that he received during the solitary study. At the age of 30, he left his native town of Ray and proceeded to Bakh, the capital of Gustas. At that time, the king of Iran, in the 13th year of the reign of Gustav, Zoroaster is reported to have entered his court bearing the sacred fire called Adhar Burzin Meher and a cypress tree. Zoroaster was first persecuted by the courtiers of Gustas, but the miracles he performed convinced them of his claim. Gustas embraced the religion of Zoroaster. The king's prime minister Frahostra and Jamaspa, the two learned men of the age, became the prophet of first disciples. Under the royal patronage, the first disciples spread the message of the prophet and converted all the people of Iran to a new religion. Once the king accepted the faith he preached, Zoroaster produced the sacred books of the Avesta, which he had brought with him to court. They were written in the Avesta, a language believed to have existed as far back as 3,000 or 4,000 years. Fravardin Yast mentions, besides Frashumastra and Jamaspa, the 200 persons as his principal disciples, of whom Medioma is given the first rank and Gustav the 20th. Hustosh, the queen, is also mentioned as one of them. Avesta mentioned that Zoroaster had 3 daughters, Freni, Triti, and Parusheshti. And the Pahlavi works state that he had 3 sons, Isadavastra, Urvata and I'm sorry, and Havrin Chitra. Nothing is mentioned in the Avastha book about the latter days of Zoroaster, but the later Pahlavi and Persian books assert with regards to his death that one morning when engaged in prayer, he was killed by a sharp instrument thrown at him by Tarbaratus, the general of King Arjask, who hated the new monotheistic religion. Zoroaster is then stated to have flung at Tarbaratus his rosary, which killed him on the spot. So he flung his rosary, which killed the person, the killer. It's a little confusing because they have names that are really hard to pronounce, and they're really unfamiliar to us. So it is making it a little confusing, honestly. But I think we're doing all right. Don't lose hope, and we just have to listen to this a few times and understand the concept behind Zoroastrianism. Nothing is okay. Fine. Brief history of Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism flourished for a period of 1,000 years from the reign of Gushtasp until the quest of Persia by Alexander the Great. It declined for the next 556 years until it was restored to its pristine glory when Ardeshir Bebe Khan ascended the throne in 226 AD. He had the sacred texts translated into Pahlavi, the language then current in Persia, and built fire temples for the worship of Ahura Mazda. This restoration, initiated by Ardeshir Bebe Khan, continued for the next 416 years until Arab invaders under Khalif Omar overthrew Yazdezad, the Persian monarch, in the year 651 AD at the Battle of Nahavand, and destroyed most of the religious books. The Mohammedans offered them the alternative of the Quran or death. Almost all Zoroastrian population embraced Islam. Their fire temples were destroyed or converted into mosques, and nearly every trace of Zoroastrianism was obliterated, removed from the history. However, some of the Zoroastrians abandoned their homes and fled to the mountains districts of Khorasan, and later from there to the island of Ormus at the mouth of the Persian Gulf, from where they set sails for the shores of India. They first settled at small island of Diu in the Gulf of Cambay, and later moved to Gujarat and landed at Sanjan in the year 716 AD. Jadi Rana, who ruled Sanjan, gave them permission to settle there. At the Sanjan, they built their first fire temple 721 AD. See Sharma JB and Sharma SP, the Parsis in India. Waves of migration followed, and in the next 300 years, their numbers grew and they moved to other places like Cambay, Ankleshwar, Variav, Vankaner, Surat, Thana, and Chaul. The term Parsi or Parsi refers to these early immigrants of Iranian Zoroastrians who emigrated to Western India over 1,000 years ago. The long presence in the region distinguishes the Parsis from the Iranis, who are more recent arrivals and who represent the smaller of the two Indian Zoroastrian communities. Check your progress. Who was Zoroaster? That's all they want to know. One question. Now 1.3. Zoroastrian philosophy. The concept of God. Zoroaster combined two words, Ahura and Mazda, to refer to God. Ahura Mazda is conceived as the great creator and governor of the universe. The entire universe is governed by him, so he is called Ahura, and everything in the world is created by him, so he is Mazda. Creation and governance are two principal functions of God. As creator, he is the good artificer, and as governor of both the visible physical world and the invisible moral world, he is the preserver of the universe. He is also the destroyer, the increaser as well as the decreaser. As creator, he is the father of reason. So he is called Vahistha Manana, best reason. And as the governor of the universe, he is the originator. He is the originator of the right law, and hence he is Asha Vashishtha, righteousness. See socio-religious system of the Parsis. Zoroaster conceived God as supreme among celestial beings. He is beyond space and time, immutable, and is the immovable mover of the universe. He is without form, without beginning or end, omnipotent, omniscient, pure, and is of the essence of goodness itself. Evidence from nature is considered the best proof for the existence of God. The harmony, the order, the law, and the system observed in nature leads the Zoroastrians from nature to nature's God. The regularity and harmony in nature led them to conceive God not only as the creator but also as the preserver of the universe. Ahura Mazda is closely associated with the powers of nature, but the Zoroastrian notion of God is not pantheistic, since Ahura Mazda is distinct and above all mankind and natural powers. So this is basically theism. Theism, they believe in one God. The two primeval principles. In attempt to account for the presence of good and evil in creation, Zoroaster conceived two primeval principles called Spenta Manush and Angra Manush, which work under Mazda. The history of the word is the history of the conflict between these two forces. The former is the creative principle, while the latter is the destructive one. So Spenta Manush is the creative and Angra Manush is the destructive. The Spenta Manush is the cause of all that is bright and shining and of all the good and the useful in nature. This beneficent principle appears in the blazing fire, and the Angra Manush appear in the charcoal. The Spenta Manush is all light, truth, goodness and knowledge, while Angra Manush is all darkness, falsehood, wickedness and ignorance. Those things that lead to the greatest good of the greatest number of mankind. Those things that lead to the greatest good of the greatest number of mankind are the creations of the good principle, and those that cause misery and pain are the creation of the evil principle. This conception of the twin principles does not lead to dualism, since Angra Manush is also called Ahriman, is not conceived as omniscient or almighty. Zoroastrian notion of the world. Zoroastrian cosmogony deals with three basic moments in the existence of the universe. Number one, the creation of the world, which is Bandahis. The revelation of the Mazdian good religion. The revelation of the Mazdian good religion, which is Gumezisn. I'm sorry if I can't pronounce them right. I know. The final transformation, Vizarisn. Material existence in the state of mixture due to the aggressive activity of Angra Manush. Life and non-life, animate and inanimate beings result from the fusion of the good and the evil. However, material existence is not considered negative. The world was created in 6 consecutive stages. First, the sky was made of stone and rock crystal, then water, earth, vegetation, animal life and human beings were formed. The earth is surrounded by a high mountain range. Hara Berezaiti. The earth is divided into 7 large areas, Keshwars. The largest section called Khavani Ratha alone is inhabited by man. From Mount Hara, like Mount Meru or Sumeru of Indian mythology, located at the center waters, descend the flow into the Varukhasha Sea. 2 great rivers, Daitya and Ranha originate in this sea and they mark the eastern and western borders of Kaviniratha. It is from Mount Hara, which is the highest spot on earth, the souls of the dead depart on their heavenly voyage. In the middle of the Varukasha sea is found the tree of all seeds, as well as another tree that is endowed with healing powers and confers immortality. It is called White Hauma, the chief of plants. Gavayodata, the bull, and Gaya Maretan, human life, both killed by Ahraman, evil spirit, were the prototype of animal and man respectively. From their seed originated all good animals and the first human couple, Masha and Mashanag, like Adam and Eve, Adam or Hawa. So Masha and Mashanag. Everything has a dual existence, spiritual or mental, Minog, and physical or material, Getig. Similar to the Platonic notion of the world of ideas and the world of shadows, the first of three basic moments in existence, creation, is actually the separation of the spiritual and the physical. The second stage is their mingling, and the third stage is the final separation of the two. Zoroastrian notion of man. According to Zoroastrian thought, man is composed of the material, the vital, and the spiritual. The spiritual part, which exists prior to the physical and vital parts, at birth, the spiritual is combined with the physical and the vital, and at the death it is separated. The physical part is called Tanu. Vital parts are two, namely Gaya and Usthana. The spiritual parts are Arvan, soul, and Fravashi, spirit, with their two twin faculties of Manas, mind, and Bodhas, consciousness. The body is the instrument for the soul and the spirit. Only in a healthy body the soul can function, and so a healthy body is highly emphasized. The soul is responsible for the deeds of the body and receives due reward or punishment after death. Accordingly, it enters heaven or hell and commences the next life. The notion of Fravashi is not mentioned in the Gathas, but find mention in other Avesta literature. Now they said Avesta was spoken 4,000 years back. So the word is feminine in gender and is believed to be a feminine spiritual helpmate, directing the soul to pursue the right course in every respect. It is a principle that guards, guides, and protects the body from every danger. She is a loving friend of Urvan and acts as the guardian angel of the soul. Fravashi is not responsible for the deeds of the body and hence receives no reward or punishment. On the cosmic plane, she guards the word of Ahura Mazda against the evils of Angra Menush. Like the Platonic ideal, she exists prior to the individual whose guardian she becomes when the individual is born. She enters the body with the Urvan at birth and guides it and separates from the body at death. Ahura Mazda endows the soul with Kharatu, knowledge, energy. Chisti, wisdom. Ushi, intelligent perception, sense. Means, mind or thought. Vacha, speech. Shakyat hona, action. Vasol kama, free will. Daina, religious animated conscious. Ahu, practical conscious. Fravashi, guardian angel. Bodhas, consciousness, memory. And above them, Daina, vision or the revealed religion. With these, the soul is expected to perform his duties successfully and get the reward. Zoroastrians believe neither in destiny or fate nor in saving grace. Instead, hold that steady industry, strong will, and determination will ward off evil and bring about good. Zoroastrian ethics. The two principles, spenta menush and angra menush, found in creation are found inherent in human nature in the form of Vahumana or Beheman, good mind, and Akmana, evil mind. These two influence man's Manashni thoughts, Gavashni words, and Kunashni actions. When the good mind predominates human nature, it results in Humata, good thoughts, and Hukta, good words, and Havarsta, good actions. But when evil mind overtakes human nature, it leads to Dushmata, evil thoughts, Duzukta, evil words, and Durashata, evil deeds. The responsibility of man is to act in support of the good principle and destroy the evil one. He does that by cultivation of the land, rearing of domestic animals, etc. The destruction of the wild animals and evil creatures. Think nothing but the truth, speak nothing but the truth, and do nothing but what is proper is the gist of Zoroastrian moral philosophy. Good thoughts, words, and action consist in honesty, charity, truthfulness. See socio-religious system of the Parsis. The Zoroastrian scriptures teach several virtues. One is exhorted to love order and harmony and hate disorder and disharmony. Obedience to teachers, parents, elders, and lawful government is highly recommended. Great value is given to sanitation, purification, cleanliness. A believer is duty bound to keep earth, air, and water pure. While fasting is not recommended, the virtue of temperance or moderation is considered a priestly virtue. Charity is another highly recommended virtue for the Zoroastrian. The Vendidat speaks of three kinds of charitable deeds: to help the poor, to help a man to marry, and lead an honorable life and virtuous life, and to give education to those who are in search of it. Zoroastrian concept of liberation. The Zoroastrians believe in the immorality of the soul. Liberation. So Zoroastrians believe in the immorality of the soul. The Avesta writings of Hadokt, Nusik, and the 19th chapter of Vendidat, as well as the Pahlavi books of Minokherad and Viraf Name, treat the state of the soul after death. The last book also contains graphic description of hell and punishment meted out to the wicked. A plant called Homisopid is held to be the emblem of the immorality of the soul. Heaven, Vahistha, Ahu, is represented as place of radiance, splendor, and glory, while hell, Ashistha, Ahu, is one of gloom, darkness, and stench. Between heaven and this world, there is supposed to be a bridge called Chinvat, the discerning ground, where a man has to render an account of his life. The Gathas mention that successful souls after death cross the bridge called Chinvat and enters the house of purity and eternal joy and light. Gathas teach retributive justice in terms of reward and punishment. Every want and wish is fulfilled, and the souls enjoy happiness in the company of the emancipated souls. The weaker souls at the foot of the same bridge descend into the house of impurity and utter darkness, is confronted and reproached by his conscience and bemoans his state. The reward and punishment of the soul lasts till Fraso Kereti or Fraso Guard, the renovation of the world, where the whole creation is to start afresh, and Ristak's resurrection of the dead, which mark the end of the present cycle of existence. At this juncture, there will arise the last Soshant and the work of Angra Menush will be ultimately wiped out. The souls of the wicked, so Angra Menush is basically the devil. The souls of the wicked will be brought out of hell and purified, being forgiven at the termination of their sentence. The souls of the righteous will also rise again, and thenceforth the world will enter upon a new cycle, free from evil and misery. All souls will be endowed with new bodies and enjoy a life of ineffable bliss and glory. Check your progress. Discuss the Zoroastrian concept of God, Ahura Mazda. What is the core of Zoroastrian ethics? 1.4 Zoroastrian religion. Just about 30 minutes into the video, and we just have, I think, 2 more pages, so we are almost done. 1.4 Zoroastrian religion. Zoroastrianism is one of the most ancient living religions of the world, with a history of over 3,000 years. Some scholars identify 3 phases in the growth of Zoroastrianism as a religion. The religion found in the Gathas, texts attributed to Zoroaster himself, is called Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism. The religious content of the younger Avastha is called Zoroastrianism. Same thing. Sorry. No, not the same thing. The first one is called Zoroastrianism. And the religious content of the younger Avesta is called Zoroastrianism. And the religion of the Sassanid period is called Zoroastrianism. Finally. So the how to I mean it's a very tough language, I must say. The Zoroastrian pantheon. In spite of polytheistic tendencies prevalent in the Indo-Mediterranean world, Zoroaster propagated in a monotheistic religion. Polytheistic is when you believe in multiple gods. Monotheistic is one god. So in spite of polytheistic tendencies prevalent in the Indo-Mediterranean world, Zoroaster propagated a monotheistic religion. Deliberately did Zoroaster avoid the term Deva and chose Ahura Mazda as the name of God. He considered Devas as the progeny of Angra Menush and hence demonic powers. However, in the course of time and in the hands of generations of his disciples and later elaborations by the clergy, many aspects of polytheistic and ritualistic practices of other religions and cults reemerged. Albeit with some alterations, Zoroastrianism, which had emerged as a reaction to formalistic religion, absorbed many of the concepts and values that belonged to the world it had rebelled against. The historical developments in Iran and contact with other religions led to liberal loans from alien faiths. Next is the sacred fire. The most important symbol of Zoroastrianism is the fire, but they are not fire worshippers. They prefer fire to idols as symbols of Ahura Mazda. In the eyes of Zoroastrian, fire's brightness, activity, purity, incorruptibility bear the most perfect resemblance to the nature and perfection of the Ahura Mazda, who alone is worshipped. It is the witness of yasna, sacrifice, and the object of the priest's address and of offering of the hauma. There are 3 ritual fires: the fire of the priests, the fire of warriors, and the fire of farmers. There are also 5 natural fires which reside in front of Ahura Mazda, namely the fires in the bodies of men, animals, in plants, in clouds, and inside earth. The Zoroastrian priesthood. In ancient Medes, The priests called Magi formed a separate priestly tribe. Zoroastrian priesthood today seems to be hereditary. Every son of a priest is called Osto and daughter Osti, derived from the Avesta word Havistha, meaning one who is to prepare the sacred drink, that is a candidate for priesthood. In former times, priesthood was open to women as well as, but not anymore. The son of a priest to be ordained must first memorize all the Avesta except the Venidad. He should be without physical defect or ailment. He is initiated into the priesthood through a month-long naval ceremony and is called Arvad, the master of art in teaching and sacrifices. As he advances in years, knowledge and experience, he is designated Mobid. When Arvad has completed his study of Avesta and of recitation and practice of the ritual, he is admitted to the ceremony of Baratev, the highest degree in priesthood. The highest rank in the hierarchy of Zoroastrian priesthood is called the Dastur. The dignity is conferred on a priest by common consensus. The Dastur enjoys special privileges and primacy in performance of ceremonies. See social religious system of the Parsis. Next is the Zoroastrian worship. Zoroastrians have both private and public forms of worship with the recitation of sacred word and ceremonies. One of the most common personal prayer is Nirang-e-Kushti, the prayer on unifying and retying the sacred thread. Kushti around the west, the prayer is known by everyone and recited in several times a day. Most public prayers are conducted by the priests and offerings of the juice of the hamao plant. Milk, sacred bread, ghee and holy water, sandalwood and frankincense are made. All prayer and worship are held in the presence of the sacred fire. The day is divided into 5 prayer periods, which includes meditation before the sacred fire. The Hamao cult, which consists in using a mortar to extract the juice of the Hamao plant, a species of ephedra, is the main Zoroastrian liturgy. The preparation of the juice, called the rite of Paragra, is accompanied by the recitation of the 72 chapters of Yasna before the fire, which is constantly fueled. The juice is drunk after a complex set of rituals are performed. Hama is administered to the dying as a kind of viaticum, which is believed to bestow upon their immorality at the resurrection of the dead. Among purification rites, Padyab, ablution, nun, bath, and Bershinum, the great purification for the initiation of priests and corpse bearers, are the most common. In these rites, consecrated urine of the cow is used. Consecrated urine of the cow is used. The confession of sins during Patate, a ritual of penance, and the rituals surrounding the establishment of a tower of silence are important moments of pubic worship. Zohari Atosh is the funeral rite at the Tower of Silence, Dakhmas, at which animal fat is poured into fire. It is performed to free the soul from the demon of corpse, Druj-e-Nasu, and to assist it along its heavenly voyage, which begins 4 days after death. The Zoroastrian religious ceremonies. Navjote. Zoroastrians are initiated by ordained priests into the religious community through the ceremony of investing the child with the sacred undershirt Sudra and the sacred thread Kushti, known as Navjote, newborn. The same rite applies to both boys and girls. In the ancient times, this occurred at the age of 15. The age of initiation into the faith of Zarathustra was gradually lowered with the present-day Irani Zoroastrians undergoing it between 12 and 15, and with Parsi Zoroastrian Zoroastrians initiating their children at the age of 7. The rite begins in the presence of ritual fire, the symbol of righteousness. On a tray, a new sudra and kushti with a new set of clothes are kept. The ceremony begins with the recitation of Ahuna Varya by the child. The priest presents to the child the sacred vest. This is followed by the elaborate rite of tying the kushti thrice around the waist. At this time, the child recites the Nirangi Kushti containing the most important part of the articles of faith. As in Hinduism, the Zoroastrian initiation symbolizes spiritual rebirth or second birth. Sudra and Kushti must be worn every day and night during one's lifetime, and one must ritually untie and tie the sacred girdle every time one prays or performs the Padyab Kushti. The Padyab Kushti is performed before a Zoroastrian can engage in any religious activity, as it ensures the purity of his body and soul. It is enjoined that the ritual be performed early each morning on rising from sleep prior to religious act of eating. Before ablutions at the beginning of each of the 5 periods of the day, and after urination and exertion. All Zoroastrians do undergo the ablution on entering the premises of a fire temple to ensure that every religious act they perform is done so in the state of purity of body and soul. Padyab Kushti ritual, because it involves the performance of a purification rite, differs from the simple Kushti ceremony, in which a ritually clean person unties and reties the Kushti without first performing ablutions. The simple Kushti ceremony is referred as making new the sacred girdle. The wedding ceremony. True Zoroastrian marriage is a sacred union of two souls complementing each other with the ultimate goal of doing good and maintaining self-denial. Fire is a chalice, and an oil lamp is prepared on a side table. The bride and the groom are prepared by ablutions, prayer, and acceptance of sacrament. The couple sits facing each other, and a screen is held between them, and their right hands are clasped. It symbolically represents God's action of uniting spirit and matter at the moment of creation. 2 priests recite mantras, tying cotton thread over the clasped hands of the bride and the groom, and then pass the thread round the couple 7 times. Then the screen is lifted and both shower grain over each other. Sorry. Grain over each other. Okay, then the screen is lifted and both shower grain over each other. Then the couple is made to sit side by side, and the marriage obligation is recited thrice in the presence of 2 witnesses. Death ceremony and the Tower of Silence. Zoroastrians believe that death is a weapon of the devil, and the funeral rites are aimed at restricting the influence of the evil and keep it away from good health living beings. The dead body is not burned or buried, but exposed to the elements of nature, where the vultures and other carrion birds dispose of it. This is done to avoid the dead body polluting the earth, water and fire. If the body is buried, it would pollute the earth and water, and if cremated, it would defile the pure flame. The body is washed and wrapped in a clean cloth and then placed in the dakhma, or a circular stone tower called the Tower of Silence. The tower has high protective walls but open to the sky, so that the birds of prey can have easy access. Annual ceremonies are held to commemorate the dead. Check your progress. Discuss the significance of fire in the Zoroastrian worship. Explain the significance of the initiation ceremony of Navjot. Let us sum up. We have reached the end, my friends. 1.5. Let us sum up. This brief discussion on Zoroastrianism one of the most ancient living religions of the world, provides an insight into its origin, history, and literature. The history is marked by the periods of growth and development of Zoroastrianism, especially in Iran and beyond. The invasion of Iran by Alexander the Great and centuries later by the Arabs led to the decline of Zoroastrianism in the land of its birth. The Gathas, the Avasthas, as well as the Nasks provide ample insights into the Zoroastrian philosophy of God, Word, and W/man. Zoroaster held the Ahura Mazda is one and only wise Lord of the universe. The twin primeval principles of Spena Manush and Angro Manush are responsible for the mixture of good and evil that is experienced in creation. W/man, I don't know what that means. So W/man, who is free from, must join hands with the forces of good and better creation through good thought, word, and action. Such a W/man receives the reward for his or her moral actions at the moment of death. There is no possibility of a vicarious salvation by the grace of a savior in Zoroastrianism. One ought to work out one's emancipation oneself. Zoroastrianism, which emerged as a monotheistic challenge to the polytheistic tendencies of the Indo-Mediterranean region, soon ended up embracing the appeal of the latter. Contact with other religions led to accepting several deities into their fold. The Zoroastrian liturgy is elaborate with several rites of purification and sacrifice. Of the many Zoroastrian ceremonies, the Navjot is perhaps the most significant. The death ceremony, Zohar-e-Atash, at the Tower of Silence, Dakhmas, stands out as a rite very peculiar to the Zoroastrians. Keywords: monotheism, belief in one God; polytheism, belief in many gods; pantheon. The pantheon